Hello, this is Fam Electric Ghost. I have Siena Friend on.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
So, I like to give a little brief background before we start. So,
Sure.
I'm Fam Electric Ghost. I'm an electronic music producer and musician and podcaster. I've been doing podcasts on Anchor FM for the last 2 years. We're part of Spotify. We have over 22,000 listens since 2018. And we interview indie artists, actors, musicians, and we also interviewed companies that create music instruments for musicians. So we have Siena Friend, and you're from Los Angeles.
I am, yes. I currently live in Los Angeles.
And had you grown up in Colorado
That's correct.
before?
Yep.
Cool. So I was reading your profile on your website, and you've got some really great taste in music. I'm kind of showing my age, but I bought Exile in Guyville back in '93 when it came out.
Oh, yeah.
On
That's
CD.
awesome. Mm-hmm.
And I was very much into college radio. And
Mm-hmm.
at that time, I was listening to Juliana Hatfield and the Blake Babies, Liz Phair and her girly sound that she had created, which was kind
Yeah.
of pre Riot Girl, and Sleater Kinney, that kind of work. I was listening to bands like Who's to Do, and I was listening to your album, Neon. And
Mm-hmm.
like the first song, California, really does channel Liz Phair kind of Juliana Hatfield vibe.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, definitely love them. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, my mom was like listening to, Exile in Guyville and those albums during that time when they came out. So I was like lucky to have that, uh, to be able to hear that at a young age.
I also hear a little Susanna Vega in your
Yeah.
music. So like Tom's Diner kind of like Luca kind of vibe. So I'm going to get into the questions. Could we start with that? We had sent you that ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I think I had read that when you first got into music, but I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
So what age did you first get into music?
Well, I did really love music like all my life. Like as a child growing up, I listened to a lot of music and I would sometimes like, kind of like write my own little songs, but I didn't really get into it until I was 13, and that's when I started playing guitar and like really thinking that I could write my own stuff.
That's cool. So, I mean, so you primarily use the guitar because you're a guitar player, singer-songwriter. But I've
Yes.
heard like other instrumentation on some of your songs, like on Neon, there are drums and it sounds like there's strings, the
Yeah.
inside walls and the thirst. And so I was just wondering, like, do you have a full band or you work with other musicians or do you play other instruments?
I don't really play many other instruments. I play bass, but that's about it. So for that one, I worked with a producer and recorded that album in the studio. So he played some stuff on it, and then we brought like friends in on it. So at the moment, I don't have a band that I regularly play with, although I have been in bands in the past. But
Yeah, I was reading that because in your background said you used to play like in at Penny Lane in Boulder.
yeah.
And you used to, what you did, just do like solo, like acoustic, like unplugged type of thing?
Yeah, totally. Like I was playing there when I was a teenager, doing like open mics and
Mm-hmm.
showcases and stuff. But that's a cool venue. They don't exist anymore. But that was a
Oh, that's too bad. I
awesome
love,
spot.
like, yeah, I used to do beat poetry. I kind of started as a
Oh,
poet.
that's
So
awesome.
all my songs started from like, I'm a published poet, back in the day when I was in
Yeah.
my 20s, I self-published a bunch of poetry. And then I'm a keyboardist. I've been playing keyboard since I was 17. And and I was always into new wave, new romantic stuff, and for years I just played keyboards. I
Yeah.
never did any kind of singing. And then I found voiceovers, and I created my alter ego Josephine
Oh, cool.
Electric, and then she's like the lead singer of my band, which is Fam Electric Ghost. And it's like kind of like Gorillas with this kind of fictional kind
Yeah.
of band that's created from that. But Yeah, it's like playing New York is like the best place for me to play because I come from New Hampshire and they're not really into what I'm doing in terms of electronic music, but New York and Boston are more open to that. So
Yeah.
I live in the Northeast. I go to some venues there, or small clubs like 300, 400 seat clubs. But
Yeah.
that's cool. So you also were saying that you're influenced by Dylan, which is always, yeah, he's a big influence for me. Andy Difranco, Joni Mitchell. I was just listening to Coyote.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite songs from Joni.
Yeah.
And Nanci Griffith. Also,
Yeah.
yeah, you had to name checked her. So that you got really good um, singer-songwriter references.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
in
mean,
terms of your reference points.
all those people are just, like such brilliant lyricists. And
Yeah,
I've always been a lyric person. Like that's what I hear when I listen to music. And that's usually where my songs start. So those
yeah,
are
Beatles.
definitely,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I hear a lot of kids today though name check like all these bands, but they never mention the Beatles. They never mention like any of the classic people that kind of like are living in the 2000s or
Right.
2010s. That's cool, but it's kind of like you kind of got to build your bones as a songwriter.
Yeah.
And whether you like that genre or not, like to understand what Dylan's doing, I think as a songwriter in any genre is a good idea.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But yeah, so I would get back to the questions. So you started when you were young, and you really kind of started writing your own songs in your early teens.
I did. Yeah.
So when did you decide, that you had songs that were like, okay, I'm going to bring this to the public. I'm going to actually go out and start showing my own material to the world.
Yeah. Um, I think it took it took like a couple years. I never took lessons on guitar or voice or anything. I was just like really doing it on my own, and I taught myself to play guitar, actually from like this old Beatles songbook that I think my dad had around, and it had like the chord charts in it. So I started doing that, and then I started like using those chords to write my own songs. But yeah, they were very like awkward, at first. I didn't really know how to write songs, so I think it took a couple years, and then my parents were really supportive, so I started doing some open mics or just playing them for my friends, when I was like 15, 16, started doing more of that. Um, yeah.
So in 2017, it said you went to Nashville and you actually worked with one of your musical heroes. And
Yeah.
that did that help really kind of define the work that we see in Neon from like that? Did that kind of come from that
It
point?
definitely did, yeah. So I feel like I've been through, a lot of like phases with music, and it's kind of um, at that point in my life, like I had moved to LA, working on music for a few years, and then I just was really missing it. Um, there was this work with Jonatha Brooke, who was also a really great like singer-songwriter in the 90s. She was part of this duo called The Story.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
know them. I heard them before.
yeah, yeah, they have like those amazing harmonies. And so she's someone that I also grew up listening to. And yeah, so I got to go take her workshop in Nashville, and that was really inspiring. And that definitely started getting me writing again. And yeah, all the songs on Neon, I think, came after I took that workshop. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think in the
Nashville.
past, yeah, Nashville, that was the first time I went to Nashville. So just like
That's a
seeing
great.
that scene and being there was
Yeah,
really
because
fun.
it's so everybody probably just thinks it's country music, but Jack White's there. There's a lot of other stuff happening there. It's just a great place for music.
Yeah,
It's kind of like New Orleans or
yeah,
LA or New York City, or London. It's like one of those places. If you're a musician, you want to go just to work with the session
yeah.
musicians and all the other people that are around there. But
Especially as a songwriter, like Nashville is really the place for
oh yeah,
songwriters, I feel.
yeah. Well, I always grew up with the old Johnny Cash, like the Sun Record stuff, and I used to just get caught up in the old school, um, like
Yeah.
Americana from like the band and Dylan and
Oh, yeah.
Waylon
Yeah, it's
Jennings and
great.
stuff like that. But I'm kind of all over the map. You know, I go from progressive rock to punk rockers like the Clash and like bands like New Order, Joy Division. But I'm kind of like all over the place because I'm a keyboard player, so I'll look at like Sun Ra, I'll look at Davis, I'll look at Coltrane, and then I'll look at progressive guys like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, just because I use like analog modes. Because a lot of people electronic music today, they're like EDM, they're using like laptops.
Yeah.
But I prefer the analog voicing of like real old school like mini modes and stuff like that. Just because it's kind of like with your guitar. If you're a keyboardist and you have a more organic keyboard, it's going to be like having a better guitar.
Right.
But I see that you're also a filmmaker. So when you said you took a break, was that when you were doing your filmmaking, your visual art?
Yeah, I was. I moved out to LA to kind of get more into the film scene. Actually, I didn't really come out here for music, and I've worked in various aspects of that. I've done cinematography, and I've directed. I have written and directed like a couple short films, and so I think it all kind of goes together though. Like I've always had like multiple forms of creativity that I'm passionate about, and they kind of like come more strongly at different points in my life. But I realized I'll never stop making music, so I had to come back to that.
Have you thought of integrating your visual art and your filmmaking into your music, and like producing your own videos or film projects to go with your music?
I have actually, I've actually made a couple music videos for some of the songs on Neon. I did one that was like a stop motion that me and my husband, he's also a filmmaker, so we collaborate on stuff. So we made that, and that was really fun.
That's cool.
You can see that on YouTube.
I'll put a link to that because we can put hyperlinks. So I link
awesome.
to your main site and to your Spotify, but I'll also link to your YouTube.
Cool.
You can always send it. If you could send it, make it easier. But I probably could find it.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I can send it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So,
but I mean, music and film really go hand in hand. So I think in the future I want to go more in that direction of combining the two.
What's cool, like the thing that, because you're an acoustic guitar player, what's really cool is I've been doing like live casting, like podcasting, like on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
For the last 3 years,
cool.
I've done a lot of shows. And it's kind of like a prep for going and doing real live shows. Because I actually use tripods and film my recording sessions in my home studio, and then I put them out on the web. And I wear my stage gear, which is like this LED stuff, but I like dead mouse stuff, but But the thing is, that's cool is like in the last year, I'm working on a project where bands that I've interviewed on this podcast, we're going to actually do like a Facebook Live where we're going to showcase some of the folks that I've interviewed are going to do like a session from their studio, and then we're going to put it on my Family Like the Ghost site, which is going to be cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
that's a great idea.
Yeah, so we're always looking to do stuff like that. So if you ever get into that and you ever want to join us, because we're going to start doing it. We're working with a band, an artist from the Netherlands who's going to be on, and then a band from Atlanta that we interviewed called Vibe. We're going to talk to their bass player is going to do something with us, but we're always looking for people if they're interested. But
yeah, definitely interested. I like that, this new world that we live in, like stuff like that is becoming more possible, and there's a lot you can just do from home to connect with other people.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool tools. I mean, I've got some tools from Roland to let me do it. But I always got to give them a little plug because it's kind of my second career as a podcaster. But so one of the other things, we talked about some of your reference points already, but your writing style and your genre, what would you say it is? It's I think it's indie music, it's alternative, but do you have a particular genre that you would like? If one of your fans asks you what genre you're in or what genres you use in your music, what would you?
I would say it's folk music. It can be like more folk pop or folk rock, but I think it's definitely in the folk genre.
Kind of like Bright Eyes or Conor Oberst.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of feel like, he he kind of goes either way. Sometimes he'll do full acoustic stuff, and then he'll do electric stuff. And the Casadega is kind of like 70s, like pop, and then he'll do like more stripped down stuff.
Oh yeah. I love Bright Eyes. He's a big influence for
I
sure
heard they're coming back this year. There's all these pictures showing.
Oh, are they? Yeah, because he's been doing his own stuff for a while.
Yeah, Pitchfork just had a bunch of photos showing the band reunited. They took publicity photos, and it looks like they're gonna, do a new album, which is like I love Casadega. I like the People's Key, but Casadega was like one of my big favorites back in the day. I thought that was like brilliant, but.
Yeah, I love Casadega. I love Lifted.
Yeah, that's a good album too.
Yeah.
So, because you're an acoustic musician, you play guitar. Do you use like digital audio workstations, or do you primarily go to studios and work with producers? Do you put things down into like Pro Tools, or do you wait to go to the studio with like a recording from your phone or something that you put together? How do you record? I always ask people about what kind of flow you use.
So I'm kind of like starting on a new venture right now with setting up my own, like a home studio and getting more into that. But in the past, it's pretty much been studios. Like I like doing like demos in, Logic or on my phone, but I haven't taken it very far as the production. So, I like going into the studio and having that collaboration and working with different people. But for my next album, I'm planning to produce it all myself. So I'm learning a lot right now, and
so you're building your own,
kind of excited to see where that goes.
So you're building a home studio out, and you're getting all the tools.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, kind of like I've always kind of been very old school. I used to be with bands like recording in the basement on Tascam tape recorders.
Yeah,
like old 4-track and 8-track, and then mic in the drums, and that's kind of what I used to do. And what I've done today is I kind of stay away from the DAW. I use digital recorders like Zoom R24s, R16s, and then I use analog synths, and everything goes into 1/4 inch into these digital recorders. And because I'm using all these analog synths, I really don't like using the DAWs, because if you have a Moog or a Prophet and you bring it into a DAW or FL Studios, it kind of compresses the signal.
Yeah.
And as an acoustic, synths like those are kind of like acoustic instruments. Kind of like if you're going to take a drum, you got to mic the drum,
Yeah, exactly.
And you got to get it in so you don't lose what you're doing. And, I just kind of been a fan of tape, and then, punching in and punching out and live recording tracks. And it's, in this day and age, people are like, well, that's kind of like the hard way to do it. But it kind of drives my creative process. And,
totally. Yeah, I get that.
And I just like the way I can put things together, kind of like in a jam band jazz kind of style, and it kind of fits the way I like to do my music. But it's interesting. There's a lot of people that you can collaborate now with these home studios are set up. I actually did a collaboration with an artist in your neck of the woods like 3 years ago. All Control K. We did a record called To Infinitum, and she was going between Denver and LA. And we never met. Cool. We never physically met. We did everything over the net.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I'm planning to do some of that on this album too.
That was like my next question is like, are you going to collaborate with other musicians and then the other question is, are they like in your same genre or they're in different genres? Like, would you collaborate with like a hip hop artist or a DJ? Or a heavy metal artist, or would you just stay within your lane? It's kind of like the question. A lot of people seem to be cross genre today.
I'm interested in it. I mean, I don't think I would do anything at this point that changes my sound too much, but like for my stuff. But I'm also just like really interested in collaborating and co-writing and pretty much working with anybody. I like writing in different genres, actually, that aren't necessarily like songs that I would put out under my name, but
like maybe doing
working with different artists.
Yeah, because like EDM artists or DJs sometimes want to have a vocalist kind of do a vocal to go with like a dance track or like a bass heavy beat, or even like hip hop artists want to have vocals in the back or like backing vocals or melodies. and they'll get like somebody from a different genre to do it, because that's where they kind of are mixing different aspects of music. And I think that seems to be a really cool thing to do. And this kind of widens your capability if you put yourself in a place where maybe you're not as comfortable, but it kind of gives you a different view of what you can do as a musician. But
yeah, definitely. I think the more people you can work with, the more you can learn and grow as an artist. So I love to work with people of any genre, really.
so for Neon, did you tour like in California and in Colorado? Did you stay in that neck of the woods, or did you bring it anywhere else?
No, I haven't really gone on tour for it. I've just been kind of hanging out around LA and playing a couple shows here.
So for your next project, are you thinking of staying in California primary area of your primary audience, or are you looking into maybe joining the way the festival circuit is now in the music industry? It seems like the big draws are these big mega festivals like the Coachella,
Right.
in these big events in Europe and all over the place. But it just seems that's seems to be the trend in these big festival type concerts rather than just a big band just doing like a Pearl Jam concert, even though they're coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like Coachella is what everybody's thinking about,
Right.
or the big, big festivals in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that would be great. I think, it's a great atmosphere and to be able to like have so many artists together at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm such a homebody, especially right now, that it's like I don't see myself like
Traveling.
touring a lot.
Yeah.
But I do like to travel, but it's just like.
Well, the other alternative is like what I was saying is there's a lot of bands that are doing the live stream, and given the type of music you've done on Neon, I mean, you could totally do like an unplugged version of that album on a Facebook Live or on a YouTube.
Yeah, for sure.
And then your audience gets to see you, and then you don't have to worry about traveling or booking and getting a hotel room and all that. It's just a cool way to connect, and I like to do demos and show progression of songs. It just kind of opens up what you can show your audience. It depends on what you're comfortable with, but the technology is such now that like it used to be very expensive to do it, and now it's not so expensive, and most of the time it doesn't even cost you anything other than getting the equipment.
Yeah.
But it's I think it's a cool way to connect and not to get your audiences worldwide. When you go up on any of these streaming services like Spotify,
right?
You can reach way beyond your local area. And I think that's one of the cool things about the industry now. I kind of see Spotify, even though I work for them, like the radio.
Right.
They're like the radio station, like college radio used to be. I grew up like where we found the bands that we find now on social media. We used to listen to them on college radio, and that's where you find all the new bands like REM, REM's or the Husker Do's, the Replacements, the Indigo Girls, all those. They were really breaking it in the college scene, and then sometimes they would go beyond that and then get signed by a bigger label. But now, because everybody can go and find a way to get out to Spotify and Tidal and Apple Music and all the rest of them, there's like a lot of music, and it's kind of hard to discern, what's going on. But there's opportunities. So what do you think about the direction of the way the music industry is going in terms of that?
Yeah, I think, it's good and bad. It's like you said, there's so much more out there that it's kind of hard to really stand out, but there's a lot of opportunity as well. And just the fact that, you could record a song in your house and release it to the world, like not in a short amount of time, is pretty awesome. And just that everybody's kind of like making their own way and figuring out new things, with like Patreon and just like different ways to reach your audience. I think it's obviously
definitely
it's harder to make a living. Well, I don't know. I mean,
Well, it's like the old system.
it's harder to make a ton of money,
Yeah.
but then there are opportunities. You just kind of have to get creative.
Well, the thing is, back in the day, because I'm showing my age, I'm in my 50s, you could get
Yeah.
label, but if your first 2-3 records didn't do it, you're done.
Right.
And we're now where this indie thing is, you could stay out there for years and keep on doing what you love. That it wasn't like, okay, if you don't break it by the second LP, you're off the label.
Right.
You know, and so there's an opportunity. But the other thing is, because of streaming, and ever since Napster and all these other things, and Apple Music, and Spotify, the value of your music, like it used to be that, well, you're going to get the price of a CD, you know, you're going to get the price of a download. That was what people did. Now you have to sell merch. You have to go on Patreon. You have to do Bandcamp.
Yep.
You might make more money selling T-shirts and posters than you do from your record.
Yeah, 100%.
and so that's where one thing I'm kind of disappointed that you know, in an age where kids are willing to spend $60 for an Xbox video game, but they won't pay $10 for their artist like album.
Yeah, it's just not the way people think anymore. It's all about the streaming and
it's got to be a way to get people connected to music and understand musicians. You know, it would be cool if you would support the projects.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes in the next few years. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder if things will ever swing back around, or
it's
just gonna keep going.
Like you have to kind of find out different ways, like this podcast. As an artist, I was able to get this, and I actually do pretty well. And you know, I'm on a record label. I have a distribution contract, but I actually do better with this.
Right. Yeah. You do a lot of these, right? Like how many podcasts do you do a week?
I do typically 2 a week, and then I talk about my own music as a separate session. So I might have 3 or 4 episodes a week, and I've got sponsors, and I get supported by Spotify, and so in that way I'm able to be, you know, have a cash flow coming in that's different than my music, which takes longer to get money from.
Totally. Yep.
But you know, the only way I can get music quick is if I go to New York and I play a show in New York.
Yeah.
Come close to New York, so I can do that, and you can get more money doing that than waiting for your check from Spotify.
Yeah.
but it's just, I mean, it's not all about money, man. If it was about money, I would have stopped playing when I was 15.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No one's in it for the money, especially now. So
yeah, you kind of do it because you love to do it. And I think what's cool about the whole social media is the opportunity to work with musicians. I mean, I'm working with a lady in the Netherlands. I work with somebody in Denmark. I've done collaborations with bands in New York City, and like I said, I'm working on these Facebook live shows. So the ability to be able to connect to artists and never even physically have met them, work with them, is just amazing. That's what I really love about today. I think that's just opens up a lot of opportunities to do things in different ways and meet people and do different types of music.
Yes, definitely.
So are you working on you're saying you're working on a new project? Is that for a 2020 release?
I think it will be. It's very early in the phases. Really, I'm just writing at the moment, and I'm planning to record it in the next 6 months. And, you know, we'll see. There'll definitely be a single this year, if not the whole album, because it can take a while to finish, as you know.
Yeah, because albums, I mean, I'm kind of into album format. I grew up, you know, listening to like Tommy and Quadrophenia, like concept albums.
Right.
Because I'm a progressive like synth guy. So Genesis, you know, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Quadrophenia, Tommy, Pink Floyd. And so if you're in that kind of vein and you're building like, you know, 10-minute songs, 8-minute songs. And that's where I still write a lot of songs like that. And people are like, well, why do you write like that? Well, there's still fans that want to hear that. It's a niche. It's not like the 2-3 minute niche. It's a different type of niche that people want to see, that kind of progressive rock type of thing. But yeah, that what I do tends to be like it's album oriented.
Yeah.
So there's whole concepts I tell stories, and that's kind of where I come up from. Is you used to buy an album, you listen to the wall because it's like you put the wall on your record player and you didn't just jump around, you listened to the whole thing through.
Yep.
And I kind
Yeah.
of that's the way I still listen to music, even though everybody has this kind of playlist mentality. I still listen to bands when I find a record that I really dig. I dig it because I like listening to it all the way through.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's how I like to listen to music too, and it's really not the way that most people are thinking right now, and everyone's releasing singles, and that's
Well,
awesome, but yeah, I'm excited to really make a full album that tells a story because I love that as well. And
Neon really flows well. It feels like a cohesive album.
thank you.
That's why I really dig talking to singer-songwriters. I mean, the majority of the artists I talk to are singer-songwriters. I
Yeah.
have talked to DJs and rappers, but tend to talk to singer-songwriters that kind of write the way you do.
Yeah.
Just because, to me, it's like singer-songwriters are like novelists. You kind of get
Yeah.
a window into their soul. You get a really, I listen to music like reading books. And I like picking up the feelings from different writers, like, like Liz Phair. Her whole girly sound vibe was just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it takes you on a journey.
Yeah,
there's nothing like listening to a full album and going through
especially if
that
you're telling
journey.
stories. Yeah, your
Yeah.
songs are stories. All her songs are stories
Yeah.
about some kind of relationship or some kind of situation that she went through, and she's able to express it in a very literate and interesting. And it's just really powerful. And she's kind of got this punk aesthetic. It's got this Riot Girl, pre-Riot Girl, like girly sound is kind of this Riot Girl thing, but it's
Yeah.
acoustic typically, or she's kind of not heavy punk, but she has a punk aesthetic, which
Totally.
is
Yeah.
which is just. And your sound, it has kind of like that Juliana Hatfield kind of sound to it. And like I said, I hear like that kind of Susanna Vega vibe too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting to listen to singer-songwriters. I'm always telling other musicians I talk to that songcraft is real important.
Yeah.
It's not just like the hook, or everybody in the modern like Pro Tools world, they're looking for that like really catchy hook. They're
Yep.
looking for that sample or the drum beat on an 808, or they're trying to get something that's just they can just like kind of manufacture. And it's going to really kick. And there's a reason to do that, and there's an audience for that. But the emotion, to me, is really what's important, in
Yeah.
songcraft.
Yeah, it's got to start with a feeling or something you want to say,
Yeah.
regardless of what kind of music you're making.
So this is a new question I'm asking artists. Like, what is the most favorite song you've written? The song that you feel is like your best song. If you're going to tell, like everybody has their own opinion. Your fans probably have their own pick. But as an artist, what is your like key song or your central song that you think represents your style?
Um, I really like The Person That I Want to Be. I think it's kind of a weird song, and um, when I wrote it, I was taking a class, and like a music class, and I shared it with the teacher, and he was like, you may not want to like show many people this song because it doesn't really like show off a great side of you, or it shows your insecurities or something. And I was like, but that's kind of
It's kind of like a singer-songwriter. That's what
kind
you
of what
want to do.
music's all about, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, look at Carole King. I mean, that all the great songwriters, you show your vulnerability.
yeah. So I think I like that song a lot, and it kind of describes what goes on in my head a lot of the time, and I think people relate to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I personally like The Thirst a lot.
I do as well. Thank you.
Yeah, that one I've got that on repeat, and it's just going on and on in my head.
Oh, thank
but
you.
Yeah, I just like I love to. One of the cool things about this job is like listening to all the new music, and then being able to talk to the people that created it. So
Yeah,
then,
totally.
so on the thirst, can you kind of describe how that came to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's a relationship story like a lot of my songs, and um, it's about a guy I dated a long time ago, and he kind of had a drinking problem, maybe a little bit, but I just remember I had this memory of like being out with him at night and him just being like, I have the thirst, like I gotta have another drink.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of struck me, and
So
so
you use that kind of imagery.
I was
You use
thinking
the
about
imagery.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's I write songs about the past a lot because I think it's a way that I process things, um, and it's like sometimes only when you see it from a different perspective, then this story just kind of like snaps into place. So you can't always write about something that's going on right now, at least for me. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
think a lot of
just,
songs. Yeah, a lot of songwriters I've talked to, they basically have kind of like they take points in their life and they kind of document them. You know, and and,
yeah,
and sometimes you get like Dylan. If you listen to like Idiot Wind or you listen to Tangled Up in Blue, it's supposed to be about the breakup of his marriage.
hmm,
But when you really listen to it, he still layered it with so much metaphor
yeah,
that it's hard to get to the direct, actual, personal thing that happened because he created all these characters
right,
that that talk about it, that talk about this personal breakup, but he still was able to be distant from it. But then it's like considered his most personal album, but he's still, when you listen to the songs, he's kind of disconnected because he's created all these characters that are going through these personal tragedies, but it doesn't seem as personal.
yeah, yeah,
But that's kind of the trick as a songwriter is like, how can you do that? I guess some people want to distance themselves and some people don't. They want to be like a total open book, and kind of the levels of how open you are and how personal you are to what you're saying, what happened in your life.
yeah, yeah. I'm definitely pretty personal with my writing. Um,
I think
I
that's
think,
great. I mean, I love that kind of writing. I mean, I'm very much drawn to it.
yeah, yeah. Rarely will I write a song that's, in the third person or not about me, but sometimes.
Yeah, so you haven't thought to like create like that. Well, that is something I want to talk about it, but I'm going to create this other character that talks about it. You rather take it on directly.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I
It's
think it's just
just,
like it depends on like who you are as a writer.
yeah,
How
that,
comfortable you are doing that. Does that ever, like when you play something live and it's so personal? Do you ever really think about that, or is like the song is the song? I'm playing it. I'm not going to consider like the emotions and everything. Does it ever kind of overwhelm you, or you just as a musician you're passionate about it, doesn't give you any kind of hesitation?
no, I mean, I think once they're written, they do kind of take on their own life. And after you've played them so many times, it doesn't really feel like you're sharing something that, too personal. It's just,
Hmm.
it does become a song and it becomes a piece of music. So, yeah, I don't think it overwhelms me or anything like that.
Do you feel like when you do when you do a stage show, that you have kind of like a mask on, your performing mask, and then there's like the Siena Friend, like the not the musician, is the regular day person. But when you go on stage, do you kind of present yourself, or do you feel that you're presenting yourself as the entertainer version of you, or doesn't really, you don't feel that there's any kind of distinction?
I don't think there's a huge distinction for me. Like, there's a little something that I'm presenting, just a little more performative, but I don't feel a huge distinction.
Yeah, because some artists are like an example would be like a Freddie Mercury or a Bowie
Yeah,
or
yeah. I don't.
Prince. They
I
they projected like this bigger than life, and it's not really them. Well, maybe it is,
Right.
but it seems like
It's
hyper.
a side of them, yeah.
Yeah, it's a side of them, but it's like hyper extreme.
Yeah.
And but some artists like that's how they like to present themselves, and other artists like, well, this is more stripped down, it's more authentic. I think like indie kind of artist, or the college radio artists, like bands like REM, Liz Phair is kind of like, well, this is me, I'm not really presenting anything more. It's I'm able to get on stage, and I do have a little bit of flamboyance, but it's not that different than who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. It's pretty much still just me telling stories about my life, but in the musical form.
Well, that's really. So, do you have anything you want to tell your fans that I haven't asked you, that like, okay, well, a fan of your music, what would they be interested in that maybe we haven't talked about?
No, I guess just I'm very excited for the next steps and where things are going to be going with my next album. I think it's like really a fresh start for me. So
is it a really radical departure from your other sound, or is it still in the same vein?
I think it'll be in the same vein, but it'll be a little bit of a departure as well. It'll still be me. It's not going to be a different project or anything.
So it's like a progression in your style. You're feeling that you're going to be able to really kind of break out with something that's a little bit different than what you've done before. But still, like, people will be familiar if they listen to Neon. It's not going to be radically so different that it's like you didn't know it was you.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm excited for the next year and for everybody to hear the next stuff that's going to come out, and to play some more shows. Let's see, my next show is, what is the date? It's next month. It's February 6th in LA at a place called The Other Door.
Oh, is that downtown, or is it on the outskirts?
It's on the outskirts, yeah.
That's cool. It's cool to be playing in LA, though. It's always good.
Yeah, there's a lot of little venues that are great for singer-songwriters, actually. And
yeah, it's kind of like in New York, like CBGBs and Fat Baby and all these like smaller clubs are kind of like where the indie bands like to go.
Yeah.
So I wish you great success, and I'm looking forward to hearing about your new project. What we like to do, we've had many bands come on the show like multiple times, and artists come on. So when you get close to your new single or your new project, just give us a ring on Instagram, and we can set up another call. And we have done in the past with some of the bands we've interviewed, like Sex with Roller Coasters from Pittsburgh. We actually did like an album release show. We went through every single song on their new album when they had the new project.
Oh, cool.
Like a second podcast with them, and we did that when they released their Dweeb album. So yeah, if you have that coming into 2020, whether you have the single or the full project, we're glad to have you back on.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to come talk to you when I have some new stuff to share. Thanks. It was fun talking.
Yeah, we're going to put this out tonight. We'll send you the links. It's going to go out to 11 different podcast platforms, including Spotify and Apple, Radio Public, many, many more. And there'll be integration on Instagram with Spotify. So it'll actually have a highlight where you can go directly to the Spotify version of this podcast.
Awesome.
We'll put it up on our Fam Electric Ghost sites. We have a couple sites, and our Facebook and our blogger page. So we like to promote our podcast that way. And you feel free to set it up however you want. And we'll send you a bunch of the links as they get published tonight.
Okay, sounds great. I'll definitely share it.
Okay, thank you very much. You're Siena Friend. And everybody check out Neon and download it and listen to it every platform available that you can find it. And remember to send me that YouTube link, and I can include that as well.
Yeah, will do.
Okay, thank you very much for coming on the Fam Electric Ghost Show. We thank everybody, and we'll talk to you sometime later this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.